Welcome to Preparing for the Unexpected. Today, we're going to be talking with Regina Phelps, founder, CEO, and president of EMS Solutions. Regina, welcome back.
Alex, it's great to see you again. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, today I wanted to talk to you about burnout. Verywellhealth.com in the last week published an article about burnout. You and I, and some other guests that I've had, we've been talking about burnout now for what seems a couple of years. It doesn't seem to be going away. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Oh, no, it's not going away. And actually, I think it's probably going to get a little bit worse. So let's first of all, I want to talk about several things related to burnout. And I want to first of all start with the actual technical definition of what it is. It's a term that we often hear come out of people's mouths, but it is actually a condition, if you will. And it does have an actual definition. And I want to make sure I get this correctly. It's burnout is the state of a chronic physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that especially feels like stress is relentless, unmanageable, and that life becomes meaningless. Those are pretty heavy terms.
That last part, especially.
Yes. It's actually considered an occupational phenomenon. And it's not a medical disease, but it actually is associated with work. Now, you might have lots of stress in your life in many other places, but it's not technically what the definition of burnout is. And there are several things that it's characterized by. One is energy depletion, so you don't have any energy to do anything. Secondly, it has a lot of distancing from your work. You're just overwhelmed and you just want to push everything aside. And it also results in professional inefficiency, as you might imagine, right? Because here you have this sort of love-hate relationship probably with what's causing your burnout. And so what it means is that you are constantly feeling that you are kind of underwater. So I think we've talked about that a lot. And in our profession, I think, given what we do, you can see that we could have kind of some boring times, right? Where you're just working on plans and processes. And then all of a sudden, you become hyper vigilant because of what's going on. Or, like in our case, we actually monitor the news frequently. We're watching what happens around the world. And in some cases, that increases my level of feeling burned out on occasion, or just the world just seems over the top. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, I agree. There have been times where I felt overwhelmed, even doing this show, finding the guests and scheduling and editing and recording and posting and sending emails back while doing client work, and then wanting to do some of my own projects and things that need to get done around the house, got to take the dog out. There are days where it's, oh my God, you will remember this. Calgon, take me away.
It's
The
exactly
old
right.
commercial. That's what it feels like some days. Just like, oh my God, stop. Someone stop. Take me away.
Someone stop the world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there are several symptoms of traditional burnout. And I just want to say that I've actually been truly burned out once in my career. Not in my professional life in EMS, but because I've done this for over 40 years, but it was when I first got out of college. I have a 5-year degree in nursing. And so my specialty was oncology, and I worked in a gynecological unit. And pretty much back then, there weren't a lot of really successful chemotherapies and treatments, and many of my patients died. I'd say 75% of them probably died. And so after doing that for about 18 months, I was exactly all of the definitions of burnout. I was so personally fried. I loved what I do, but I felt like I was just dying inside. And so the only thing that actually helped me is I actually stopped. So I got out of clinical practice, I became a hospital administrator, and then like 3 years later, I started my business. And so that actually is something I personally experienced. And it was not just being tired, it was feeling dead inside. And it was really scary, to be honest with you.
I
There
had
are a bunch.
that in my last role in the hospitality industry, which
Oh,
I had been in
yeah,
for a
that's a
long
tough
time.
one.
Uh,
Hmm.
we were a busy restaurant north of Toronto, about an hour, hour and a half north of Toronto. And in the summer, it was unbelievable. I was a kitchen manager, assistant manager, whatever, did all those things. And you would start, I'd get there at 7 a.m.
Mhm.
to help people get set up because I knew we were going to be busy, and I wasn't walking out till 1, 2 in the morning.
Oh man.
Barely any sleep. And after 6 months, I was starting to snap at people.
Mhm.
I didn't care
Mhm.
anymore. And it got to the point where I got very, very sick, a terrible flu. Usually a flu knocks you out for a day or two. This knocked me out for 6, 7 days, and I was just
Wow.
completely wiped out. And the manager I had at the time was clueless about these kind of things. Called me up and started yelling, and
Oh.
this isn't professional of you. And meanwhile, I could barely lift the phone. I was so weak. And when I put the phone down, I just said, I quit.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, the next day I started feeling better. And I realized it was the
The
work.
relief,
The
right?
work was destroying me. It really
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are classic, classic, classic signs. There's actually several symptoms of burnout, and I think all of our colleagues really need to be aware of this because many people are completely stressed out given what's happening in the world. So I want to just tick off some of these symptoms, and you actually did a very good job of describing many of them right
Oh,
there. Good job.
not
So
sure I'm happy about that, but
yeah, I know you're not going to be happy when you think about it, right? So under there's stuff the first category is under emotional and cognitive. So that's chronic exhaustion even after your rest. You wake up and you're exhausted. So you did that. Irritable, you're cynic, you're numb, you just don't feel anything anymore. You have reduced concentration, you're not able to make decisions, you're kind of just in flux, really. You might feel like you have no purpose anymore, or that life does not have much meaning to you. And also, you can actually feel done, just exactly what you described. I'm done. My emotional body is gone.
yeah,
Now, under the physical side, there can be all kinds of things. There can be sleep disturbances where people they can't sleep, or maybe they just sleep too much, right? They can't get out of bed. You might have headaches. You might have all kinds of gastrointestinal related problems. You might have muscle tension. Your back hurts, your neck hurts, all of those physical manifestations. And then the last one is one that I think really is most disturbing for a lot of people, even though these other things I mentioned are critical, but it's the behavioral things. And that's where you kind of withdraw. You withdraw from the world, you kind of withdraw from your relationships, your job. You aren't very productive because my gosh, you feel like hell. You procrastinate, you just can't get to things you want to, you can't do it. And also, you just have a lot of increased reliance on things like caffeine, sugar, you eat too much, you drink too much alcohol, all of those, it's too much. And for me, when I was burned out, I certainly had all of those physical manifestations. I had the behavioral ones, and I certainly had the emotional ones too. And it was like feeling like I was a zombie or a kind of a Walking Dead person in some ways. Did you have described some of those same things, right?
yeah. I can remember quite a few of those actually.
Hmm.
The eating too much or not eating at all.
Right.
No energy. I just had no appetite. Definitely having a beer or two after work.
Hmm. Hmm.
After those big long days, I need
Yep.
something to calm me down or take me out of the headspace I'm in.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
you know. So what
Exactly.
are some of the things we can do to help us if we recognize, as you pointed out, some of these symptoms and some of the things to look for that we may be experiencing? What are some of the things we could do to maybe start helping ourselves outside of what you and I did, which was basically walk away?
Quit our jobs.
That may not be
Well,
an option for many people.
well, one of the first things is that first of all, you have to name it. You have to name that something is wrong and that you have to name that essentially you are burned out. I mean, really burned out. Because once you actually acknowledge it, it becomes much easier for you to develop a plan of action. Now, you might be able to move on and do something different. Like I changed my job. It sounds like you changed your job. So that might be one thing is that begin to think about what are the strategies that you can do to get out of the situation that you are in. Now, That may not be possible for a lot of people, given what their work is. But I think it's something that you might be able to begin thinking about. Is there a way that I could reframe what I do? Is there a way that I can give work to other individuals? Do I have to be on call 24 hours a day? Do I have to be the expert in everything? And I think that's also kind of a thing is we all have high expectations about what we should be able to do. And so therefore I think we set ourselves up in some ways, to be the overall expert, to be the person that you always go to, and you're always on call, and next thing you know that you are in that condition. So I think it's really reevaluating how are you doing your job? Do you need to be that perfect person? Do you need to always be on call? Can you do things differently? So the first thing I think is really important self-evaluation. Now you may be able not to get too far with that initially because you're still fried, but I think you need to basically plot that out. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to really stop and take care of yourself. And these are all the things that your mom and you've read in every magazine that you need to be doing, right? So you need to first of all get out of your office, get out of your house, whatever the situation is. Get out in nature. Oh my gosh, nature does wonders for you. Go out and just, walk your dog, go out and take a walk around a park, walk down the street and just admire and notice things. There's a guy in social media here in San Francisco that's made a practice of doing this. And what he looks for is the heart symbol in nature. And he posts things on a daily basis. It's sort of, and he got into this because he was just fried. And he started to notice that there were hearts in all kinds of nature, rocks, trees, bushes. And it began to be something that began to shift him. He began to realize, oh my gosh, this is great. And
Mm.
so that can be a huge issue. Think about what you eat, because if you eat a lot of crap, a lot of sugar, a lot of caffeine, that's going to continue to be a problem for you. And the last one I would just say that's really important that you want to think about is spend time with people that make you feel better. Spend time with your good friends. Spend time with your dog. Spend time with people that will help nurture you. And that's really, really important. So, thinking of all those basic things are really important. And if you need to, then maybe what you need to do is rethink about your job ultimately, like you did, like I did. Sometimes you need to shift. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
I agree. And one of the things you mentioned about friends there being around people that support you and nurture you, make sure you understand the difference. Because if you are, let's say, going to the bar every day after work because you need
Oh,
that drink, and I don't mean an alcoholic because some people, have a beer every day and they're not alcoholics,
right,
but
exactly.
going to the bar and you think the people at the bar are your friends, chances are
Mhm.
pretty good they're just drinking buddies.
Right.
They're not friends. They're not helping you with anything. They might actually be making things worse for you because they're at the bar because they're burnt out and not feeling well. And we know the saying, misery loves company.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's actually a really good observation because there's a difference between kind of a friend or really an acquaintance, right? And
Yeah.
really a friend, somebody who's going to support you, listen to you, but also give you some good counsel, and sometimes kind of just say, you need to get out of your head, or kind of tell you like it is, right? Because you're not seeing it yourself. And sometimes what you need to do, in order to move forward, is to actually see a therapist, talk to somebody professionally about how you can get out of the space. And I think in our profession, and especially with what's going on in the world, it is really easy for all of us to really end up in a bunker, if you will. And we need to really think about that and really take care of ourselves to the best of our ability.
And that's the perfect point to end on today. Regina, thank you so much to talk with us today about burnout. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invitation, Alex.